Hi guys, so today we are talking all about redheads. So if you are watching this on my website, you might be watching this about a week early before it's released to YouTube. So welcome to my website, and if you're watching this on YouTube, then welcome. I'm happy to have you guys here. If you are totally new here, then you can check out my video titled The Foreskin Undertones, where I talk about my own color analysis system called Artistic License. And if you are still confused about your undertone, I also offer color consults that I will leave a link to down below. I'll leave all the links that you need down below, so check that out. So let's get right into it. I believe that a person's best colors, the colors that are really going to make their skin glow, are determined by their undertone. And the skin undertone falls on a spectrum of cool to warm. The cool and radiant undertones have a lot of blue dominance to the skin, so they look amazing in cool, bright colors. The cool and delicate undertones have only a slight blue dominance to their skin, and so they look amazing in cool and muted colors. The warm and delicate undertones have a slight yellow dominance to their skin, and so they look amazing in warm and muted colors. And finally, the warm and radiant undertones have a lot of yellow dominance to their skin, so they look amazing in warm and bright colors. And redheads can fall really anywhere on this spectrum, and I'm going to show you guys some examples in this video. Redheads are probably the most complicated color analysis case. And I want to share with you guys what I found through my clients, through real life people that I've seen in person, and through the countless images that I've looked at online of all of these redheads, and through the research that I've done on the different types of melanin, all of that. So I am here to share that with you, and I'm sure that this is only the first part of a redhead series. So I'm sure there have to be more videos on redheads. But in this video, I really want to talk about how redheads change colors. And not only that, how they can sometimes appear warm even if they're cool. So finally, here we have 3 redheads, and they are all at their lightest skin tone. And you can see that that yellow color is really not their personal best color. But as soon as these 3 ladies put on some cool and radiant colors, you can see how amazing they look. So they are really cool and radiant undertones. Redheads at their lightest have a very, very extremely light skin tone, and this extreme light skin tone falls into an extra special category. And I have an entire video on extremely light skin tones that is really beyond the scope of this video, but the summary of it is that all extremely, extremely light skin tones, in the absence of any pigment, are cool and radiant. And I suspect that this might be because the lack of pigment allows for the blueness of the veins and the capillaries to show through the skin, and that creates a clear blue dominance. So if you are a redhead and you have very, very light skin, the lightest of the light, then you might be cool and radiant. So your best colors would be royal blue, fuchsia, cool green, all clear, bright colors, and those would look absolutely stunning on you. And you can see how amazing this cool red, almost magenta colored lip looks on these 2 redheads. They look absolutely stunning with this lip color. And you can see how on Emma Stone on the left, that yellow dress against her skin doesn't look as harmonious as the cooler lip color does against her skin. So the takeaway here is that redheads at their absolute lightest, or anyone at this extremely, extremely light skin tone, is going to be cool and radiant and look amazing in cool and radiant colors. But now, how do redheads change colors? And what do I mean by that when I say that they change colors? It's a really, really bold proposition to say that people will change their undertone if they get a tan. Now, this is a very, very special case for the extremely light skin tones, and it does not apply to everyone, and I have an entire video on this. It's not only for redheads that this happens for anyone who has an extremely, extremely light skin tone. So you could start out in the absence of pigment with your very, very light skin tone being a cool and radiant undertone. And then if you add some pigment and your pigment happens to be warm or happens to be more of a yellow pigment, then you would transition to being a warm undertone. But if your pigment happens to be cool, then you will stay a cool undertone. You guys know I'm all about examples, so let me give you guys 2 examples. So we have Lily Cole on the left and Kate Mara on the right, 2 redheads that we are going to take a closer look at their lightest as well as at a little bit more of a tan color to their skin too. Lily Cole is the simple example. She does not change undertones. So when she's very light, like on the far left, she is cool and radiant just as expected. And then when she gets some more pigment to her skin, she stays cool and radiant. She looks amazing in these royal blues, and her undertone is still cool and radiant because her natural pigment is also cool and radiant, as well as the state of her skin before it had any pigment, which is always cool and radiant. So she stays cool and radiant either if she is very light or if she gets a little bit of a tan. However, Kate Mara, on the other hand, you can see that on the left, she is cool and radiant, and in the middle, in the dress, she's also cool and radiant. So you can see that her skin really doesn't have any yellow to it. But when she adds a little bit of her own natural pigment, you can see that she has some more yellow to her skin. So her natural pigment is warm, but before that, before she had any of her natural pigment, she was cool and radiant because she didn't have any natural pigment. The image of her in the shorts in the middle is really the $1 million image, because you can see that her arms and her face probably got a little bit more sun, so they have a little tiny bit of a yellow tint to them, and you can see that that's most likely her natural pigment. I don't think that someone spray tans just their arms and their face. So you can also see that her legs that got a little bit less sun are cool and radiant, and they don't have really any yellow to them. I love that image specifically because it shows that it's really not a feature of the photos or the color balance of the photos. It's really something that actually happens, and I've seen this happen in real life. I had a coworker who was a redhead, cool and radiant, and then she ran a marathon and she came back warm and delicate, unmistakably, and it was really, really amazing to see. And I've also seen this effect in 2 of my clients who could confirm that they had a natural tan, and I could see very clearly that they were cool to start and they became warm and delicate as they gained some pigment. And indeed, you can see that Kate is warm and delicate. She looks amazing in these warm, muted colors, and it really looks so harmonious against her skin. She looks so great here, and she really is warm and delicate when she gains her pigment. But before she had any pigment, she was cool and radiant because she didn't have any pigment. So we've covered how redheads can change color. They can change undertone as they gain more pigment. But now, what do I mean when I say that they can appear warm even when they're actually cool? Because redheads have more red to their skin than most undertones and most skin tones do, they can appear to be warm because of some of the societal assumptions that we make about the color red. But in my system, I call red, a neutral color and not warm or cool. And warm and cool is really determined by how much yellow dominance versus how much blue dominance you have in your skin. And for more information on warm and cool colors, you can watch my video about that I will link down below too. So let's take a look at this tricky image of Lily Cole. So here you can see Lily looks like she might be at some sort of warm undertone, and you can see that against those colors, it's like it just looks so nice. I just want to reach for the nearest terracotta cloth and just put it on her, or reach for the nearest olive green and just put it on her, because I think that it's just going to look so amazing on her. But in reality, she is actually not warm, and all of these colors against her skin are not really going to look that great. So from this image, just to get a sense of the color that we're looking at, I would never recommend doing virtual draping as a way to find your undertone. But let's just take a look at this image and do some virtual draping to get a sense of the color that we're looking at in this image. So I hope you see what I see. You can see that against the blue color, she just looks absolutely amazing. She lights up, her skin looks more glowing, and her face really comes into focus. And against the sort of a muted yellow color that we may have wanted to put her in from looking at the previous image, she really doesn't look as good as she does against that blue color. And I actually had to double check that the image on the right wasn't any less high definition than the image on the left, and it's not. It's the same image of Lily. It's just that she looks so much less in focus and so much less glowing on the right than she does on the left. So you could say, what is going on here? So Lily has some pigment here, so this is her natural pigment, and we could take a skin swatch of this pigment from her forehead and try to analyze this color and try to figure out, what is this really a cool color? Does this color really match more with cool skin tones than it does with warm skin tones? So what I did, because I'm a little crazy, is I found 3 warm and radiant ladies: Oprah Winfrey, Hayden Panettiere, Eva Longoria, and I took skin tone swatches of them to compare to Lily's skin tone. And of course, I would never recommend doing this as a way to find your skin tone or find your undertone, because different photos can have different color balances, and you really have to look at a ton of photos to determine someone's real undertone. And these are celebrities that I've already color typed, and I know that they are warm and radiant, and I know that these photos are relatively good representations of their skin tone. And likewise, I found 3 cool and radiant ladies: Nazanin Boniadi on the left, Alicia Keys, and Chelsea Handler. So I also took swatches of their skin tones from their forehead, and I want to compare that to Lily Cole's. So here we have the comparison of all the swatches. So we have the warm skin tones on top, cool skin tones on the bottom, and I also took the quote-unquote average of each of the 3. So what I did was I set the transparency of each one to about 1/3, because there are 3 skin tones, and I overlaid them to get an average warm and an average cool skin tone. And I hope you see what I see. I see that Lily's skin tone is definitely much closer in terms of the warm-cool balance to the average cool skin tone than it is to the average warm skin tone. Lily's skin tone definitely doesn't have that much yellow in it after all, and we were really a little bit fooled by that image of her, and this color swatch is taken directly from that image. And the reason why I'm emphasizing this image is because you could see someone of this coloring in real life, and those colors could be true to real life, and you might think that they are warm when they're actually cool because of the red. And the red is a thing that sort of fools our eye a little bit and makes us think that the color is warmer than it actually is, when in reality it's a cool skin tone, a cool undertone. So Lily's skin tone is cool, and you can see that she looks okay, not too bad in the olive green and the slightly peach dress, but you can see that especially that warm olive green dress really drags her down a little bit, and she looks so radiant and so magnificent in these cooler colors, and she just looks absolutely amazing, and you really can't compare how amazing she looks in the cooler colors on the right to how she looks on the left in those warm and delicate colors. So she is definitely cool and radiant even when she does get some of her own pigment. So here we have the $1 million image of Lily, and it's a $1 million image because she has some gold against her skin, and she also has some silver against her skin, and you can see how much better and more harmonious the silver looks against her skin. So she is definitely a cool undertone. So Lily's pigment is cool, but other redheads can have all kinds of other pigments, provided that they can acquire enough of their own pigment to make them that undertone. So here we have a warm and radiant redhead on the left, and you can see how clear and bright her undertone is. It's almost like an orange undertone, and she would look amazing in obviously orange, tomato red, lime green, yellow, and that would look stunning on her. And you can see on the right, this is a warm and delicate redhead, and she has more of a muted undertone to her. She doesn't have those bright colors to her skin, and we're just talking about the skin. We're not talking about the hair or the eyes or anything like that. We're really talking about the skin color and how her skin on the right is a little bit more maybe beige and not so bright as the redhead on the left. And now when we compare warm and delicate on the left, our previous example, to cool and delicate on the right, you can see that the one on the right definitely does not have that much yellow to her skin at all. She certainly has some red to her skin, but this again is just going to serve to fool our eye and make us think that maybe she's warm, but of course she's not warm. She's cool and delicate, and she looks absolutely stunning stunning with that silver jewelry against her skin, and this is just one of my favorite examples. I think she looks so great, and that silver is a little bit more of a muted color. It's a little bit of an antique silver. It's not so bright. It's not like a platinum silver, and it looks so wonderful against her skin, and she has this soft glow to her, and that color is just amazing against her skin. And now we can compare Cool and Delicate to Cool and Radiant. And you can see how on the left, Cool and Delicate has more of a soft glow to her skin, but on the right, Cool and Radiant has more of a radiance to her skin. And you can see that they are both cool, but at the same time, the one on the right has more of a bright skin tone. We're talking about the skin tone itself. It's just a very bright color. So I want to show you guys some virtual draping examples to illustrate the difference between Delicate and Radiant. You can see that first on our Cool and Delicate lady, that on the left she looks very, very soft and glowing, and you see her face very clearly, and she looks really wonderful. And on the right, if you look away and look back, you can see that blue really fights for attention against her face, and it distracts from her, and you can't really focus in on her face even if you wanted to. You're constantly being distracted by the blue. Both of these colors don't look bad on her at all. They both look relatively good because they're both cool colors, but at the same time the blue distracts from her because she's a delicate skin tone. On the other hand, for the Cool and Radiant lady, if you look at her against that cool gray, she looks a little tiny bit dragged down. And if you look at her against the blue, and you do the same trick, you look away and you look back, that is not distracting from her at all. That blue color doesn't distract from her. You look away and look back and you see her face first and foremost, and the blue doesn't really fight for attention because her skin undertone is so radiant, and her undertone has such a clear blue dominance that that blue color against her skin just brings out her radiance and doesn't distract from her at all. So to summarize, redheads are always going to be cool and radiant at their absolute lightest. And you can see the redhead on the far right looking absolutely amazing in that cool green color because she has a cool and radiant undertone, because she doesn't really have any pigment at all, and it's that blueness of the veins and capillaries that are creating a blue dominance in the skin, making it so that these redheads' best colors are going to be cool and radiant colors like fuchsia, magenta, cool green, purple, royal blue, and lighter and darker versions of those, provided that they are still clear and bright. So this is when the redheads don't have any pigment, is that they have this cool and radiant undertone. It's very common for redheads not to have that much pigment, so it's very common to see cool and radiant redheads. But if they do gain pigment, then I've found that the most common pigment is warm and delicate, provided that they gain pigment. And of course, they can still be any of these pigments. They could have warm and radiant pigment, they could have warm and delicate, cool and delicate, cool and radiant. They could have all kinds of different pigments. I just found that warm and delicate is the most common if they do gain pigment, but of course you should always check for yourself, take a look at yourself, do some color draping, and figure out which colors really make your skin glow and look amazing. So that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you still don't know your undertone, of course, I offer color consults. I will leave a link down below to that, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you next time.